this is Sue for Parkies and Me, My Journey with Parkinson's. So I've just returned home last night from a stint in hospital where I had a back operation which hopefully will fix my back issues, and I'll be able to then go and do the things that I want to do. So that's personally why I've not been around and what's affecting my life at the moment while I'm in recovery. So having worked in a hospital for 11 years, it's an interesting thing to be on the other side of the equation, if you like. And I learned a few things while I was in hospital about myself, about processes, and just about the hospital environment in general. So I will feed through some of the things that I've learned into my latest podcast, which I'm going to share with you. So, as I've said, I was a social worker working in a hospital for 11 years, and I found myself in hospital, and I'm lying in high needs area when I'd not long come out of surgery, and I was there for the first 5 days, and then I transferred to another unit. So when I was in the higher needs unit, I was right near the nurses' station, and nurses, they don't sort of seem to carry on conversations quietly, which doesn't help when you're trying to sleep, number one, but you can't help but overhear them. Now, I'm not going to breach any kind of confidentiality here, I promise you that, but you do hear quite a lot about the other people on the ward. And there was somebody on the ward that was quite confused when they first arrived, and you could tell he was getting distressed, and the people supporting him were getting distressed, and it was really hard to hear. And the social worker in me wanted to go and try and help, but of course I wouldn't even think of doing that, and I was in no condition to do that. So being sort of so much immersed in the world of being a social worker for 20 plus years, it's hard to kind of not have that as part of your identity now. So it's a big thing for me to kind of just be a patient in a hospital bed, looking after my needs, trying to do my best, and not intruding upon anybody else's time in the unit. The other thing is you are separated by curtains, and I don't know if any of you have ever seen the Maxwell Smart originals that were on, in the 70s, I think. And they used to have a cone of silence that came down, which was when they were having a very hush-hush conversation. And I know some of us social workers used to refer to the curtains around a bed as a cone of silence, because somebody would come in for a confidential conversation and they would draw the curtains right round the bed, like that was going to block out anything that anybody could hear. So it was kind of not really going to achieve much, but we always refer to that as the cone of silence. So, my husband always says I'm nosy. Maybe I am a bit, but I'm used to tuning into people's conversations and picking out from it the important stuff to know. So I really have trouble stopping myself from doing things. And, I hear people giving some advice to a patient, like a family member saying on various topics, you're entitled to this, or this is what you could do about that situation. And I've really felt like putting my head around the curtain and saying, actually, that's wrong. Very, very wrong. You need to get your facts right. But again, of course I wouldn't do it. But it's just has been me for 20 years, and it is really hard to get out of that habit. But it was funny, when I was in that position, as I said, I was close by the nurses' station, and I would pick up that they were talking about other patients on the ward. But I often thought to myself, I wish I could have heard what they say about me when they're talking about me. But I never seemed to be able to tune in at that precise moment. So that was a bit of a failing on my part. Another funny thing that happened, they have this really cool communication system that they carry around. It's quite a small little device that clips to their uniform. and they can tap it and ask to speak to Sarah Jones, for instance, as a name. Sorry if there is a Sarah Jones, but I just picked that name out of a hat in my head. So Sarah Jones, and so they're asked to talk to Sarah Jones, and if you had any kind of an accent, and I mean that could be any kind of accent, because I have heard people with Kiwi accents, Indian accents, Asian accents, Aussie accents, any kind of accents, and the number of times that they have to say, no, that's not what I wanted, to this automated system, and it makes me laugh. And there was a young nurse doing it, and the person she wanted to talk to had a non-English name, and the system just didn't seem to cope with it, and it took her 3 or 4 goes to get through. And like I say, it's not just because she didn't have a classic Kiwi sort of an accent. It's just any accent. These things don't seem to pick up as well as we would like them to. So when she finished, I'd sort of been hovering to ask her something, and I sort of smiled at her and I said, those things can be a bit of a pain, can't they? And she said yes. So, yeah, I mean, I remember many times when my husband has been onto one of those systems when he's been calling a firm or something, and it says, I can understand what you say. Please say in a few words what your call is about. And my husband would say in a few words, in a very well-spoken manner, what he wanted, and then he would get, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Could you try to repeat that? And then he'd try again. The volume on my husband was getting louder and louder with each try. So he'd say what he wanted again, and then they'd say, I'm sorry, I can't understand. Goodbye. And then he would not be the happiest bunny in the world. So we've all been victims of these supposed time-saving things, which would, on the surface of it, be great. But, he didn't really have the appreciation of the system when he was trying to use it. So that's just a few of my musings from being in hospital. I've got a few other things that I'll talk about, and I hope you'll continue to follow me. So this has been Sue for Parkies and Me, my journey with Parkinson's. Kia kaha, be strong, be brave, be you.